my soul, my soul. You want me to the broken, you're the love that won't let go, my soul. We lift our eyes to you, to where our help comes from. Our hope is found in you, Jesus, Lord of all. We lift our eyes to you, exalted world, exalted world. In the midst of the darkness, you're the light that guides me through. Our soul. You are near to the broken, though we find the strength and healing. Our soul. We lift our eyes to you, where our help comes from. Our hope is found in you, Jesus, Lord of all. We lift our eyes to you, exalted world, exalted world. Your promise stands, your love endures. You'll never shake the standing onward. We're not afraid, we're full of hope. You'll never leave, you'll never let us go. We lift our eyes to you, where our help comes from. Our hope is found in you, Jesus, Lord of all. We lift our eyes to you, exalted world. We lift our eyes to you, where our help comes from. Our hope is found in you, Jesus, Lord of all. We lift our eyes to you, exalted world, exalted world.
Let's keep going in worship this morning. The Bible talks about where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Let's celebrate in that freedom this morning. Step out of the shadows, step out of the grave, break into the wild, and don't be afraid. Run into wide open spaces, graces waiting for you. Dance like the weight has been lifted. Come on. Graces waiting. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. There is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. There is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. For the Spirit is here, let there be freedom. Let there be freedom. Sing, bring all your burdens. Bring all of your burdens. Bring scars. Come back to communion. Come back to the start. Run into wide open spaces, places waiting for you. Dance like the weight has been lifted. Graces waiting. Where the spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. There is freedom. Where the spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. There is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. For the Spirit is here, let there be freedom. Let there be freedom. Oh yeah, oh freedom. Declare this. Chains will fall and prisons shake at the sound of Jesus' name. And lives made whole and hearts to wake at the sound of Jesus' name. Chains will fall and prisons shake at the sound of Jesus' name. And lives made whole and hearts to wake at the sound of Jesus' name. Yeah. Sing where the Spirit of the Lord is. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. There is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. There is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. For the Spirit is here, let there be freedom. Let there be freedom. Let there be
Well, we got a new song for you guys this morning. And it's called Another in the Fire. And it just kind of talking about how whatever fire we encounter in this life, and they will come, and that's just what life is, and that we're going to encounter struggle. We're going to have suffering in our lives. But our God isn't the one who just stands from afar and watches us as we go through it, and He's with us through it. And we're going to declare that I know that I'm not alone through this. And that's something that we could hold on to through it. So let's sing that together. There's a grace when the heart is undefined. Another way when the walls are closed to me. When I look at the space between where I used to be and this reckoning, I know I will never be alone. There's another in the fire, standing next to me. There's another in the waters, holding my seas. Should I ever need reminding of how I've been set free? There's a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. Was another in the fire.
longer a slave to my sin anymore. Should I fall in the space between what remains of me and this reckoning? Either way, I'm bound to the things of this world. And I know I'll never be alone. There's another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding, the power set me free. There is a grave that holds nobody, and the power lives in me. There is another in the fire. There's another in the fire. There's another in the fire. There's another in the fire. See the light in the darkness as the darkness flies to hell. Can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between us. Feel the ground shaking beneath us as the crimson walls fade away. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There's no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who wants us to lose and be through it all. So come on, lay in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. I know I will never be alone. I know I will never be alone. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the water, holding back the sea. Should I ever need reminding? Could you think to me? What the joy from every battle? Lord, I swear you'll be. See the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to hell. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between us falls. Feel the ground shake beneath us as the crimson walls fade away. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. Standing next to me, another in the waters, holding back the sea. Should I ever need reminding? Could you think to me? Like the joy in every battle. Yes, Lord, I swear you'll be. Joy in every battle. Yes, Lord, I swear you'll be. Count the joy from every battle. Lord, I swear you'll be. Count the joy from every battle. Yes, Lord, I swear you'll be. Count the joy from every battle. Lord, I swear you'll be.
Let's pray together. Father, we love you, and we are so thankful that you are with us through whatever fire we're in, whatever confusion, family troubles with our job, we can trust you through all that. We may not see the end, but we know that you're with us and you're for us through that. So through all that, we praise you, God, and we love you, and it's in your name we pray, amen. Thank you, guys. You can have a seat.
Well, what's up, Rock Church? How we doing today? Good. Well, if you don't know me, my name is Clay, and I'm one of the pastors here on staff. And I just want to welcome you to The Rock, whether you are here in person or if you're joining us at one of our other locations, whether that's C3 online, J. Rubin, Vegas, Aner, Coastal, wherever you may be at. Thank you so much for being here. And let's go ahead and give it up for all the people joining us at other locations real quick. Yeah, we're so excited about this. It's a great time to be here, and I'm also very thankful for anybody that is here for the very first time. I know that there's a lot that you could be doing, so the fact that you are hanging out here with us just means the world to us. So thank you for being here. Make sure you stop by the Connect Corner after service today, as we'd love to get connected with you, and also give you a gift for being here as well. And this is a perfect time for you to be here. This is a perfect time for everyone to be here, joining us wherever you may be at, because we just finished up our At the Movie series. Did you guys enjoy that series? That was a fun series, right? Yeah, it was a good series, and we're excited about it. And then next week, as you heard, we're starting our brand new series called God Matters, and we're very excited about that. And this week is a one-off theme called It's Just a Phase. And that is huge, because we all understand the phases of life, and especially when it comes to kids and students. Kids and students, let's be real. There are some serious phases that go on with those ages. For example, the baby phase, where there's constant diaper being changed, there's drool everywhere, they are never sleeping, and which means it's the phase where you never sleep. Anybody in that phase or been in that phase? Yeah, where they're never sleeping, and that's a phase you're like, okay, let's get through it. And then a few years later, they turn 2 years old. And then you get that phase of the terrible, terrible twos. And everything's all good, and then you drop their bouncy ball in Target, and all of a sudden, it is the worst thing that you could have ever done, and you ruin their lives, right? And they just start screaming and make this big old fit in the middle of Target, and it's really embarrassing. And then a few years after that, we get to like the kindergarten, first grade phase, where the question is being asked all the time. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are we going here? Why are we going there? Why does this work this way? Why does this work that way? And you're looking at them as the parent or the guardian, the grandparent going, why are you asking so many questions? Why do you have to be this way? Why are you ignoring me and you're like, okay, we got to get through this phase. And then something happens in a 3-year phase where they go from kindergarten, first grade, asking the question why, to getting to fourth grade and feeling like they know the answer to everything, right? And then they are not afraid to tell you that they know the answer to everything as well. And they're saying, hey, Mom, you did this wrong. Hey, Mom, you did that wrong. Hey, Mom, look at this problem you created. But what's even worse than that is when you're out in public and something happens, and then all of a sudden they look at your friend or the person you're around and they go, hey, guess what my mom did last week, right? And you're like, no, please no. And then that phase goes away, and we transition towards the middle school phase, which I affectionately like to call the smelliest of all phases. And I love our middle schoolers. They are great, but man, they can be smelly sometimes, right? And, if you ever go to Thursday night middle school groups over at C3, especially in the summertime, it smells ripe over there occasionally. And it can be rough, but we love them anyways. And then a few years after that, they transition into the high school phase, which is the phase where they show up to the house, they grab food, they run up to their room, and then you don't see them for another 8 hours until it's time to get food once again, and then you never see them again because you're like, where did they go? They are just gone. They're just grabbing food. They're just using me for my wallet and my food, all right? And it's this phase, and you're like, okay, we just got to get through it. And because we often look at these phases as a very negative thing, and then I start thinking about it a little bit more. I think we actually do that to pretty much every phase of a kid's life where we say, okay, we just got to get through it. It's just a phase. Let's get through this season. Let's get through this phase. Let's get through this moment. We'll get through it. So with that in mind, what's the most important phase of a kid, of a student, of a person's life? Well, I would say the most important phase of someone's life is the phase that they are in right now. The phase that they are in today is the most important one in their entire life. And if we want to talk about phases, I think we should define phases to start today. And some people put together this definition, and it says, a phase is defined as a time frame in a person's life when you can leverage distinctive opportunities to influence their future. There is a great opportunity, there's a great responsibility for us to influence phases in students and in kids' life to make a difference in their lives, to let them know that they matter to God. And I think this is a responsibility given to pretty much all of us. And I want to see that, for example, here in this Conway location, then also anyone else that's joining us online. I'm going to name a bunch of titles, basically. And if you are one of these to someone in this gen, go ahead and raise your hand. So let's go parents, grandparents, aunts, uncle, neighbor, teacher, coach, volunteer, brother, sister, friend, any of those. If you're any of those to someone that's part of this gen, which is like high school and down, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, so pretty much everyone in this room has some sort of influence, some sort of responsibility, some sort of opportunity to invest in a time frame in a person's life to make a difference. And that's really, really important because a lot of times we feel like we have forever to do that. But that time goes by way faster than we think it does. And to show that, we have these gumballs over here. And these gumballs, they represent a week of a kid's life from the birth to graduation of high school. That's what these represent. And we think that 18 years is a long time, but when you start to break those down into weeks and weeks by year, all of a sudden it goes by real quickly. If you have a newborn, there's 936 weeks before they graduate high school. If you have someone going into kindergarten, you have, you feel like you have forever 676 weeks until they graduate high school. If you have a middle schooler going into 6th grade, we are down to 364 weeks until they graduate high school. If you have a freshman going into their freshman year, we suddenly have 208 weeks until they graduate high school. And then we have going into senior year, and all of a sudden that number is down to 52. And before you know it, it's a zero. All those opportunities that you had are quickly gone, are quickly disappearing. And I know I might have just made some parents, guardians, grandparents a little upset at me, and my bad. But it's important because we don't want to miss the critical phases of the people in our lives so that we can influence them and help them know that they do in fact matter to God. Because, let's be honest, they need it. And you might be saying, well, Clay, this phase is so hard, it's so difficult, I can't even deal with it right now. But the secret behind that phase is you are that same exact phase when you were at their age. And chances are you needed a parent to guide you, needed a leader to guide you, needed a teacher or a coach or someone to influence you in that phase to get to you to where you are today. You can be the somebody that you needed in that phase. You can be the parent that your kid needs. You can be the leader your grandkid needs. You can be the coach that your athlete needs. You can be the friend that your friend needs in that phase. And that's so important because we need to help people know that they matter to God, but a lot of times it starts with knowing they matter to someone. So today we're going to talk through 4 simple things that we can do to make sure that we don't miss phases and we influence them properly. And I think these 4 things are going to be super valuable for everyone. And I think they're going to be beneficial in the kid you lead's life. I think they're going to be beneficial in your personal life. I think they're going to be beneficial in your friends, in your coworkers' life. Anybody that knows, these will be beneficial. Because these 4 things matter to everyone because every kid, every student, every person, everybody you know is at a different phase in life. So if we attack those ideas, we got to make sure we don't miss the phase that they're in. So the first thing we need to do is we need to embrace the phase. And we pull this from Mark 10. This is going to be a lesson from Jesus because, well, Jesus is really good at stuff. So Mark 10, verses 13 through 14, it says this. One day some parents brought their children to Jesus so he could touch and bless them. But the disciples scolded the parents for bothering him. When Jesus saw what was happening, he was angry with his disciples. He said to them, "Let the children come to me. Don't stop them." And I started picturing this scripture when I was thinking about embracing the phase. And at first, I pictured this nice, serene, great Instagram, Facebook-worthy moment where parents are bringing their children to Jesus. Everything is all calm. And then I was like, okay, Clay, what would reality be? Well, reality is like 5 minutes in, it would turn into like a Lord of the Flies situation where third graders are tackling other third graders. There's diaper blowouts everywhere. There's 2-year-olds crying. There's fourth graders trying to argue about something with someone. You have no iPads to give anybody to distract them. Like, it's a real terrible situation. And it's like, well, in that situation, the disciples, they scolded them. And it's like, okay, why would you do that? They're trying to bring them to Jesus. And it's funny how the problems that were written about so long ago in the Bible are the same problems that happen today, where people say, no, families, kids, students, no, you're being a distraction. Wait your turn. And I thought, like, why would the disciples do that? But then I started to think about it myself. I probably would have done the same thing if I was them. I probably would have looked at that elementary kid, and I would probably have been like, hey, I'm sorry, but Jesus just doesn't care about Doc McStuffins and the Paw Patrol. Like, he just doesn't care. And I would look at the middle schooler, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, but Jesus just doesn't care that you and your boyfriend broke up for the 42nd time since 6th grade, and you're only in 7th grade. Like it's so much. And I look at the high schooler, and I'd be like, well, I'm sorry, but Jesus just doesn't care about Tyler C. and Luke P. on The Bachelorette. Like, it just doesn't matter. But that's where I'd be wrong. Jesus does care because he cares about people, which is why parents, grandparents, coaches, leaders, bring the kids in your life to Jesus. Whether their phase is a good phase or it's a bad phase, it's a tough phase, it's a gray phase. Because Jesus can change their life in that moment. And what Jesus does right here is he fights against what we fight against so often in this church today. The disciples saying, hey, you are next. You need to wait your turn. And Jesus is looking at him saying, no, you're not next. You're right now. Come to me. Be with me. Hang out with me. I want you in my life. But there's a key factor of that, and it's that parents brought their children to Jesus. Parents, let me challenge you this way. The way you make Jesus a priority in your life will often lead to students making the same priority in their life. How you make a priority in your life will often lead to the student making the same priority, which is why you need to bring your student, you need to bring people to Jesus, because it breaks the barrier of exclusion. And I think this applies to everyone. When you bring your coworker to Jesus and you embrace the phase they are in, it breaks the barrier of exclusion. When you take your grandkids and you bring them to Jesus when you're babysitting them, it breaks the barrier of exclusion. When you're coaching and you bring your student to Jesus at practice, it breaks the barrier of exclusion. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people who don't think they can follow Jesus just because they don't believe Jesus will embrace them. But Jesus does embrace them, and he embraces them every single time. He brings them in. He says, come to me, be with me. I'm here for you. And in the same way that Jesus embraced them, we need to embrace the phase that we are in right now as well. I know I hang out with high schoolers a lot, and one thing high schoolers are always saying to me, like, man, I can't wait to get out of high school. I can't wait to be into college. I can't wait to be an adult. And I'm like, no, you don't. There's these things called bills and debt, and it's a terrible, terrible disease, and there's only one vaccine. And that vaccine is a vaccine called Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. You do not want to be an adult. And I would say the same thing to a middle schooler that wants to be at high school. Middle school is a great age, but then I would say the same thing to you in the phase that you're in at work. You might be saying, man, I don't like this phase of work. It's too much. Man, you can turn that around and make it the greatest mission field of all time. Embracing the phase is all about changing your mindset on phase. Rather than something negative, it turns it into something positive. And then that's when we can really engage the phase. And Mark 10:14, it says this, let the children come to me. Don't stop them. For the kingdom of God belongs to those who are like these children. Jesus right here, he creatively intersects God's story with their story. For these children, he gave them a aha moment where they were realizing that they were a part of something bigger. And way too many people in this world go through life never discovering that they are a part of something bigger, something better, that their story and God's story work together. And that's why it's so important to engage the phase that people are in, and it's so important to engage the phase that you are in. And the way you engage the phase that you are in is you get in your word. Because when you dive into your word, you will discover your story and you'll discover God's story and how they work together. When you start reading every single day, you will connect to God's story. You will discover your role in God's story, and then you will be able to respond by applying it to your life. That right there, that's engaging the story. That is huge. That changes everything. And I know you might be saying, like, Clay, that's cool and all, but that sounds pretty tough. That sounds pretty intimidating. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know enough about the Bible. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. A real simple solution. Make sure you download the app, hop on the reading plan, and start reading today. I know it might be scary, but it is worth it because it will make a difference in your life because you'll start to see God moving in your life. You'll start to see God giving you answers to questions you have. You'll start to see God directing you. You'll start to see God guiding you. You'll start to see God teaching you. You'll start to see God changing you. And I think that's something we all want for our lives. But if I had to guess, if you're a parent, if you're a guardian, if you're a grandparent, you're a coach, you're a leader, you're an aunt, you're an uncle, if you're a friend, you probably want that for the student as well. Which is why it's so important for you to engage the phase they are in. And that goes along with these weeks. See, these gumballs, they don't just represent weeks. They represent opportunities. Each one of these weeks is an opportunity for you to help your student discover God's story. What are you going to do each and every single week to make that happen? How are you going to make that a priority in your life to teach them how their story and God's story work together? I got some very easy solutions for you today to help you engage the phase that your student, your kid, the kid you coach is in. And the first one, it's pretty simple. It's getting them on a team here at The Rock. There's a bunch of different ways this could work, and you know, let's start with small groups. If you have a kid that's in Kids Rock age, they need to be going to Kids Rock. Kids Rock is incredible. I love our kids' ministry. They have so much fun. They learn so much. They have a great time. And I know every single time I walk in there, I have a blast. But even more so than that, there's adult leaders in there that care for your kid, that care for your student, and want the best for them. They are going to do everything they can to help them discover God's story. Same thing with middle schoolers. Middle schoolers, we have our Thursday night crew over there at C3. We'd love to have you on Thursday nights. Our high school house groups, they're launching in just a few weeks again, and those are great for you. And it's all because it gets an intentional adult leader in people's lives. And it's the same way with a serving team. And if we do that really, really well, this is what will happen. We'll have about 40 hours a year to influence our student, for influence your student. And that's great. I love that. It's awesome. But that's not enough. On the other hand, parents, you have about 3,000 hours a year to influence your student. So how do you maximize this time and engage the phase they're in? Well, if you have a baby, engage the phase during bath time. Speak truth, speak love, speak hope into them at bath time. Tell them about Jesus. If you have a elementary school kid, engage the phase during bedtime. Help them discover who God is by reading the Bible with them, praying with them. And then once they fall asleep, pray over them. That will make a huge difference. If you have a middle schooler, use drive time. Drive time is a huge time because let's be honest, if you have a middle schooler, you're driving everywhere. You're driving from home to school, school to practice, practice to your friend's house to home, back to friend's house because you forgot the backpack, back home, back out to dinner, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Use that time to spiritually engage them. And then high schoolers, use their time. Your high schooler is going to come up to you and go, hey, I need to buy a new pair of shoes, and I need you to give me your card. So you might as well, if you have to buy the shoes either way, might as well make a spiritual trip out of it and find a way to use that time to have conversations with them about God. So we need to spiritually engage people so that we can spiritually awaken them. And then once we do that, we need to affirm the phase. This is what happens next. Mark 10:15, it says, I tell you the truth, Anyone who doesn't receive the kingdom of God like a child will never enter it. Jesus affirms the phase that the children are in at that moment. And let's be honest here, we all want affirmation. We all want that someone telling us, hey, you're good at this. Like, for example, babies, they are told, like, hey, you're doing a great job, and you pick them up when they're crying and say, hey, it's okay. Elementary school kids, they do this thing where they look at you and say, hey, watch this cool trick I can do. And you're like, fantastic, great job, you crushed it, that was incredible. Olympics right there. Middle schoolers, they'll come up to you and tell you the worst joke you've ever heard in your entire life, but they think it's so funny, and you have to fake laugh at it. You're like, oh, it's a good one. High schoolers, they want 4 billion likes on their Instagram post, right? Like, and adults, anybody else, you want to be told you're good at your job. It's a cycle of people want affirmation, and I think that's especially true in the student world. I think students more than ever, they need people to affirm them, and I think that's part of the reason student depression and anxiety is on the rise, because they don't have enough people telling them that they have worth. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. Parents, that's huge for you, but I think it's also really important for our grandparents in here to affirm their personalities, because they're going to act a certain way around you that they won't act anywhere else. If you are an aunt and uncle, you can affirm them by talking about what they've been doing recently. You can notice them. If you're a coach, you can affirm their worth, because they're going to expect you to affirm their talents and abilities, but you can say, no, I'm going to affirm who you are in God and make a difference that way. If you're a friend, if you have a neighbor or whatever the case is, you can affirm them by saying, hey, I really appreciate you. Thank you for being a good friend. And I love what Jesus did here, because Jesus turned it around. Jesus said, hey, this is what's going on. Hey, this is what they're good at. This is what's special about them. You guys can learn from the children. You can learn from them in the phase they're right now. And I believe if we can learn from a phase, then we better affirm a phase. Better say, hey, there's something good about you. There's something great about you, and I really, really like it. And I think we spend way too much time attacking the phases that people are in rather than affirming them. We say, oh, no, I don't like this about you. I don't like that about you, rather than noticing all the good qualities that people have and really helping them understand those and finding their worth in God. Because that's exactly who God created them to be at that moment. God created them to be in that phase, to have that personality, to have those moments today. So how are we going to affirm people in our lives? And it's so important, because we have all these weeks of future influence. But if we say the wrong thing in the heat of the moment, we say a terrible thing to our student, we say a terrible thing to the kid we're coaching, we say a terrible thing to our grandkid, all those future weeks of influence get dumped out, and all of a sudden you're left with an empty jar. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be left with an empty jar with anybody that's I'm leading. Use each and every single week to affirm them rather than losing all of them, because you'll only get to affirm them in their phase they are in right now once. The last thing is, and this ties really well with the affirming the phase, is mobilize the phase. Mark 10:16 says, then Jesus took the children in his arms and placed his hands on their heads and blessed them. Jesus, I don't know what Jesus prayed right here. I don't know what exactly he said. But if I had to guess, I would guess it was a prayer that was sending them out. It was saying, hey, you are going to go be leaders of your friends and your families, and you are going to make a difference. And a lot of that's tied to the Old Testament blessing idea, that when someone blesses someone else, they picture a great future for them. So Jesus would have told them about a great future that they would have and sent them out after that. And I know I've said this from this stage 1,000 times. I know I'll say it 1,000 more times. But I truly believe that this generation can change the world because they are gifted, because they are talented, because they're skilled, and because God has called them to it. They are not next. They are right now. And I love seeing our people understand that. And I love seeing people rally behind that. And we see it throughout our church everywhere. You know, we have this gen serving on the stage. We have this gen hosting. We have this gen on cameras. We have this gen helping out in Kids Rock. We have this gen serving coffee. We have this gen serving everywhere, and that's huge. Because if we don't mobilize the faith and get people serving and doing something for the kingdom, then it's just a bunch of head knowledge with no feet, and that means nothing. So if you're part of this gen and you aren't serving anywhere, let me encourage you to get on the team, because we have a spot here for you at The Rock where you can make a difference. but I would say that for everyone. If you're not a part of a team and serving, there's a spot for you. You are gifted, you are talented, and you can make a difference today. And that's important to start doing that today. We have to mobilize the phase today because time is running out. I think about our seniors. 52 weeks, not a lot of time left. 52 weeks is not a lot of time to influence your friends. 52 weeks is not a lot of time to influence your schools. 52 weeks is not a lot of time to influence your communities. 52 weeks is not a lot of time where you're going to be in your house all the time. What are you going to do with these 52 weeks? Because time is running out. How can you make a difference today? What is God calling you to? And I know that this could be scary. I know that this can be tough. I know this could be frightening. But you can do it because God is mobilizing you. He's setting you up to be successful. But what might be even scary is all you parents. You're realizing that time is running out. And you only have 52 weeks left if you're a student. What are you going to do with each of those 52 weeks to influence them, to help them understand that they can go do something for the kingdom, that they are called to something more? And you might be in here and you might be saying, well, Clay, that's great, but I have no clue how to do that. And that's okay, because that's where we're here for you. We want to see you guys as a family win. A common misconception about our This-Gen team, it could be that our This-Gen team is only here for our kids and our students, but we're actually here for the entire family because we believe that the family is important. So we want to do everything that we can to help you out. And here in our Conway location, we have the This-Gen corner set up out in the lobby, and that is a location that has an area for you as a parent, you as a family, you as a kid, as a student, as a leader, to come and hang out with us and ask us any question that you may have. You might be asking questions, how do I get my kids plugged in? Where can I get them plugged in? How can I get them to start serving? Hey, is there any other parents that have been in a situation similar as mine? Is there any way that you could have a conversation with my kid? Or is there any way I can get them plugged in with a small group leader? We would love to answer any of those questions or any questions that you could have. But then we also want to be able to provide resources for you. And something that we've recently done is created a giant resource wall for parents. And there's different packets, and there's books, and there's visual examples that we'll have up. And there's just a lot of great things. And let me encourage you, stop by the This-Gen corner after service today and check out that resource wall, because we have books just like these. And this book is Parenting Your First Grader, and we have it from birth all the way up to 18, and we've looked at these books, and we believe they are an absolute game changer for parents. They will help you know your student and respond to your student better than you ever could. And it's one of those things where it's for sale. I'd love for you to check them out. You can also check them out on the app as well in this Gen resources portion. And I promise you, if you look at these, they will make a difference in your life. And I believe that if we work together, we use our resources, and if we embrace phases, we engage phases, we affirm phases, and we mobilize phases, and we'll win. We'll win as a church, but most importantly, you'll win as a family, and you'll win because your student will begin to know who Jesus is. So how do we respond to that? Well, I'd say it's just a phase, so don't miss it. The thing about each of those weeks is each of those weeks, they turn into history. But each of those weeks also affect the future, which means every single thing that we do today matters. We don't want to miss opportunities today, because if we miss the opportunity today, then it's gone, and we don't get to affect the future today. So what are you going to do? So I would encourage you to think about where your student is at in life. Think about how many weeks that you have left with it. Think about how much time is there. And maybe today you need to start embracing them. Say, hey, I love you. I care about you. Or maybe you need to start engaging the phase they are in. And say, hey, I'm going to find ways to creatively show them God's story. And that could be you as a coach, or you as a grandparent, or as a teacher. Maybe you need to start to affirm the phase people are in, because you've been talking negatively to them a lot recently. But what they need to hear more than anything is, I love you and you have worth. Or maybe you need to mobilize them and say, hey, you have these skills. You have these abilities. I believe you can go change the world. What you do today for your student matters. Because every week turns into history, and every week affects the future. But I think there's a second layer of response here, and it's not just for us doing it to other people, but we need to make sure we're doing these things for ourselves as well, because Jesus didn't just embrace, engage, affirm, and mobilize the children. He does that for all of us. And maybe today you're realizing that Jesus is embracing you, and you're saying, you know what? I see that Jesus actually cares about me and actually loves me. And today is the day that I'm going to give my life to him. I'm going to respond to him. And you can do that at your seat, or if you want to talk to somebody, we'll be there in the Connect corner for you. You can have that response today. Or maybe you're realizing that Jesus is engaging the phase that you were in. You're realizing that his story and your story, they work together, and you can be a part of a bigger story that is with God. And just like Jesus had his death, burial, and resurrection, you can have that same thing through baptism. And maybe today you're saying, I want to get baptized today. That's my step that I need to take, because I want to combine our stories. I want to be together with God. I want to engage the phase. Or maybe you're realizing Jesus is affirming the phase you're in, where he's not affirming what you're doing, but he's affirming you. And because you're realizing he's affirming you, you're not going to find your worth in that sin habit anymore. You're not going to find your worth in that struggle anymore. You're not going to find your worth in that problem. You're going to find your worth in him, because you realize he actually cares about you, and he loves you. And he's looking at you saying, you have worth. You were made for something more. So maybe your response today is, okay, I'm going to stop my sin habit. I'm going to stop letting that struggle control me. I'm going to let Jesus show me my worth. Or maybe today it's time to mobilize the phase that you're in, where you realize, man, I need to get on a serving team of some sort. And stop by the Connect corner, because we'd love to talk to you and help you get on a team. There's a response for everybody today, because everybody's in a phase. It's just a phase. So don't miss it. If you guys would do me a favor, stand up with me. We're about to go into a time of worship and response. And we have communion up front. We have a prayer corner. We have people hanging out in the Connect corner that would love to talk to you about any sort of decision that you would make spiritually or anything that's going on in your life. We're here for you. Let me pray for you guys. Jesus, thankful for you. I'm thankful for what you're doing, Lord. I'm thankful that you embrace us, you engage us, you affirm us, you mobilize us. And Lord, I pray that we will go and do that for other people. That we will go and help others out, and we will use the time that we have to influence people to the best of our ability. Lord, we love you and we thank you. Amen. Let's respond.